Hello and welcome back to Roll on the Adventure.
Hello.
And a 2 and a 3. It's Roll
Roll
on the Adventure. We should really have a song.
Bomb.
Adventure.
Well done.
Oh, brilliant.
You win the show this week. But yes, hello again. The last two sessions we ran through the what was it called? The Specimen Zoo.
Temporal Stereotype Zoo. I'm going to have to edit that if you forgot the title of our own game.
Shut up, okay? Yeah, so last two sessions, we ran Temporal Stereotype Zoo, where the players were actors that were abducted by weird beings or born in the zoo or whatever. They have to pretend to be, a stereotype. So, hello guys, how have you been?
I've been doing okay.
I'm alright as well.
Delightful.
Yeah, getting by. No goddamn internet access.
It happens, sadly.
Chris currently recording through the medium of magic.
Also known as a telephone.
Yeah, I'm not using real internet.
Yeah, if you listen very, very carefully, you can actually hear bang da dang da 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 dang dang da dang 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 as he keeps winding up his phone.
Okay, so this is going to be the recap episode. We're going to go through what we did, and then we're going to take apart the things that didn't work, see if we can fix them, and get the next version of the game ready.
Mm.
By next, I mean the last, possibly. Probably.
V2.
Yeah, the version 2 of the game. So I've got a couple of questions. Well, more like 5 questions.
Is it perchance asking me what the secrets were?
I am very curious to find out because we never did a reveal, did we? Like a proper one.
No.
I've got some ideas.
Okay.
But I'm not quite sure because for those of you that haven't read it, the game is predicated on 5 mysteries.
Oh, predicated. Sorry, it's a word of the week.
It's a very good word. I mean, it's also gets used in computer science, so true, that's why I use it more regularly than a lot of people, I suppose.
And you're a nerd.
There's that as well.
Yeah.
I should have just said indubitably, but
But yeah, okay, carry on.
Yeah. So yeah, the mysteries are: what is the purpose of the zoo? What do the keepers not understand? What do the guests want from their visit? What makes the keepers strange? And what happens if you misbehave? So, I think I should get the other 2 players' thoughts on this as well. I think that the purpose of the zoo was an educational establishment.
Guys, what do you think? What one do you think it was?
The existence of a gift shop didn't really feel like it, but I think that some educational establishments have gift shops, but I think it was more like a theme park of sorts.
And Chris?
So the purpose of the zoo, seemed to be, from the fact there was a gift shop, it seemed to be mostly, to me at least, straightforward as a zoo. Like it was there to show off various, I don't know, weirdness types of humans through the ages or something.
Okay,
Cool.
well, I'm glad I managed to kind of communicate that. The one I took was it's an educational establishment for alien children about sapient species that destroyed themselves. So the idea was, unfortunately, because we kind of, time got cut short a bit, what I was hoping to do was do the whole it's a zoo within a zoo. So you are the zoo to teach the humans that are in the giant alien zoo about, like, this is why we don't do the 80s, because our glorious overlords look after us. And then if you went beyond that, it would have been the glorious overlords going, look at the humans, they're all weird and they blew themselves up.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, right. Next question.
Was this mine? I think it was mine.
Yeah, it was kind of a mishmash of yours and Chris's.
Cool.
Yeah. So the next question was, what don't the keepers understand about humans? So what do you guys think it was?
I thought it was probably something linguistic, but I wasn't sure if I was just, not thinking big enough or not thinking small enough. It's hard for me to tell because I went for something pretty big when I pitched them, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think?
I really think that they had, little understanding of our metabolism and the way food works and things like this. They often confused potato chips for computer chips or things like this.
They didn't seem to have a great deal of understanding of like human psychology or appropriate mental surroundings and how to treat people so they're not pissed off all the time.
Cool. So what was it?
Well, it was specifically that non-organic matter is not edible, but I did kind of expand that out a little bit to be, that they didn't understand that humans aren't entirely non-organic,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just tried to kind of make it, they have that kind of general low-grade confusion as to, like, as I think we said in one of the design bits, like, it's really weird. We keep playing loud noises with the punk and it just gets sicker and sicker. Like,
yeah.
No,
that's cool. That was quite interesting.
Also, it led to my favorite line, which was when Chris got silicon chips and he was like, oh boy, my favorite. Just in that completely
that was great.
deadpan voice. And I was like,
yum, yum, yum.
So, the third question, what do the guests want for their visit? So I think there was a split here. I think that there was the sort of adult guests that wanted education and the young guests wanted entertainment. What do you guys think?
I don't think that, there was a specific point that I really understood how, what the guests wanted. I'm not really sure.
It seemed mostly just to be entertainment and wanting to see interesting, exciting things rather than anything specific, as far as I can.
Yeah.
I will be honest, I did feel that like this bit was the weakest part for me, that I didn't communicate it very well, but it was meant to be that they're there to be for like education. But then obviously I extrapolated that out into like, well, what did I used to do when I went to the zoo as a kid? And it was like, actually, when I went as a kid, mostly I stood round while adults, Charlie Brown voiced at me.
Yeah.
While you were just hoping for cool, exciting.
Yeah, I was hoping for the, for the orangutans to fight each other or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
To be honest, a lot of it was motivated by my experiences as a child going to the zoo. But like we were a zoo family, so we went to the zoo a lot.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so what makes the keepers strange?
Well, they were huge to start with.
Yep.
See, I got very confused as to the hugeness, because I didn't realize that the ones outside the gift shop, the huge ones, weren't the same as the ones inside. So in my head, they were kind of the same, and it got really confusing for me.
I was hoping to have a bit more time to have you guys like burst out of your cage and be like, right, everything's going to be perfectly normal.
I did. I was wondering about it. I was like, what the shit is going on?
Yeah, I was hoping to give you guys. Haha, you lose the beat war. So like it was, my hope was to be able to have that kind of pulling the rug out from under you moment.
I definitely felt that.
Yeah, but I just didn't feel like I had enough time to fully pull it off,
It was definitely a cool moment of, oh god, we've got out, what the hell is going on?
Thank you. I'm glad you thought it was at least cool.
Yeah, I did as well.
But as you say, I think it'd be nice to have a little bit more time to develop it, but
we were flying by the seat of our pants.
Yeah, that was just how the scheduling worked. Sometimes you've got to vacate the room, so you have to go, okay, this happens. And...
Yeah.
Okay,
Very important tip, actually, for people running at conventions. Remember, sometimes you do just have to vacate the room.
Yeah, quite often.
Before they send in the heavies to you out.
Yeah. And at a board game and role-playing convention, the heavy guys are heavy.
Yes.
We'll have some more on that later. I mean, should I be more specific about what we're going to have more of? Nah, let's leave it.
Let's leave
it
for now.
So the last question was, what happens if you misbehave?
So I'm pretty sure this was at least partially based off mine, so I think I know this one.
Okay.
I think mine was definitely in there.
Well, I think probably all of us had, a vague memory-based thing. I think we tried to do it, audience friendly in a sense, not too grim.
I went for you get replaced by a clone.
I went for they take you and mind wipe you and use you as a guard.
I think I had we kill them.
Yeah, you just had. You just had.
Nice and family friendly.
Well,
Nice and to the
I'm a
point.
psychopath. It's all right.
But yeah,
Somebody has to be.
you were right. I liked the idea of restarting people from backups,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what they do with the spare bodies. And then Chris was like, "Oh, they could do this," and I was like, "That's genius."
So it was a combination of the two.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that works.
Ah, brilliant. Because there was a couple of people where they were saying, yeah, this guy, we saw him as a guard and...
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh man, that's a really cool twist on what I was going for. And I really like that.
Yeah, that was my hope. And it was literally that case of when there was the two of you saying it, I was like, bingo.
Just put them together.
Yeah, he definitely landed for me.
Yay.
Yeah.
At least one of them did.
To be honest, I think I had a decent idea on like 3 of them, so that was pretty decent.
That's good. So,
Okay,
yes.
so the game itself, does anyone have anything that they think worked particularly well?
As the GM, I think that I think it would be an absolutely awesome like play-by-post game.
Okay.
By the way it ended up being, like, it didn't feel very in the moment for me, but it was really good
get
for
what
like
you mean. Yeah.
set your stuff up, and then as the GM, I tell you how it pachinko's out. That that was top notch.
Because it's kind of turn-based, but you're having to think of multiple turns at once. So I found sometimes you'd know like one thing you wanted to do that day, but then thinking of stuff to fill 3 slots worth, one of them you just kind of go, I'll react to what happens or something.
Yeah.
Which, as you say, if it was a play-by-post, you kind of break that up a bit more and you have a bit more time to think about what you want to do.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like, I definitely want to do this, and then you kind of go, I'm not sure what else, and kind of peter out a bit.
So do you reckon it might work as like a forum game or something like that?
Yeah, like a forum game. Or there's a website that invited me to do stuff with them called what are they called? One moment. Rollgate, which is like an app-based play-by-post thing. And I think it worked quite well on there. Or it definitely. We seem to have unintentionally created a fantastic play-by-post system.
Well, we might have to run it then.
My favorite thing about this game was actually the premise. I think that it's an easy to understand concept, and for people who are into fantasy, high fantasy, sword and sorcery games, it's still accessible enough to be played easily, and you don't need a ton of understanding about the game's world in order to play it. But at the same time, it creates a sort of artistic, idea of how would people react to this. It helps you make a statement with RPG, if that makes sense.
So,
I mean,
sorry.
Okay. One of the things I really liked about it was that you had that kind of. It was nice and easy to get you guys to think about it. And like friends of mine who mentioned about listening in to us, they did say that it was like, they said one thing they really liked was that, temporal stereotype sounds quite complicated, and then all of a sudden you say, well, pick someone. They're like a 70s hippie. It's like done.
Done. Yeah.
Yeah. I think character generation and game setup, we should probably kind of go through them, like go through the game in order, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So the time brackets thing, I think that's a keeper.
It just helps a bit with settling who you want to be. If you were a bit more comfortable with the general ideas, you could just go, everyone pick a dude from anywhere in history.
Yeah.
So you end up with like a Viking and a rocker and a whatever else. But it just helps keep people vaguely clustered together so they have at least something in common.
Yeah, I think had we been face to face, we definitely would have talked it out. We kind of abridged that a bit for the podcast.
Yeah.
We would have gone and had a discuss about it, but instead we ended up just picking something. I think that the stereotypes did work. The few things that people may expect to see was kind of nice.
Yeah.
Especially because it came from other people. It made everyone feel quite connected to what's going on, you know. And
I mean, the thing I did like when we were doing the kind of bracketing and figuring stuff out and that lot was that it was an easy case of just being able to share backwards and forwards. The only thing I would think is that with, like, if you're trying to run this at, say, like a shop or a convention, there is a risk of people digging their heels in.
yeah,
You know, like, I know people that would be like, no, World War II. It's like, yeah, but no, World War II. But no, World War II. It's like, okay, I guess we're doing World War II, you know? But I suppose that's more of a problem with people than with the game.
Some of that's for just kind of anything where it's fairly loose in terms of approach or what you're doing, where like if one person wants to play in super silly comedy mode and they're really insistent on it, I guess you're playing in that mode, even if most people prefer it to be more serious, where it's very much a group. You can kind of put some rules in play around it, but a large part of it is just the group dynamic, and if one person is really pushy for what they want, it can always just be a bit awkward of, no, Steve, you don't get that, sod off.
Yeah, no, we're not being Nazis. Steve, we're not being Nazis.
Yes.
Well, I think, you know, the stereotypes worked and it helps, but on the same time, I felt that if I wasn't part of the creative team, I would be challenged to find stereotypes beforehand. So a little prep would help, or a list of stereotypes. It would help start people out. And it's still, you know, sorry, you still can do anything you want, but it would be nice if, you know, you projected this by a list or something.
So like a worked example, effectively.
Yeah, because like for the 80s, we had ideas, but we moved towards the Visigoth enclave, for example, and I understand it would take extensive research in part of the game master if it wasn't something they physically experienced like we experienced the 80s.
Physically experiencing the Visigoth era, that's a big ask for a GM.
Yeah.
I like that's right. It just sounds like you know, when you get those guys that appear at every role playing convention where they're like, ugh, the combat in Dungeons and Dragons is so unrealistic. You know, when I've done my historically accurate fencing.
Yes, I know that guy.
Yeah, I just got visions of that. Like, oh, your vision of the Visigoth era is so flawed. When I was back in the Visigoth era.
Well, you know, stereotypes have this good thing. Well, I mean, like, you don't have to be accurate in this game, but again, it would be challenging to find different things for your players to do. I don't mind, you know, being totally unrealistic Visigoth stereotypes, but at least we would have to offer the player some sort of meaningful choice on character concepts.
But
yeah, I get you.
I suppose that's the thing. If that's going to be a problem, you can just not play characters from that era.
If
I think
nothing else, you could just have in the full write-up of it, just kind of, here's half an A4 page of various eras and associated stereotypes.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking was, you know, if we were doing this as like a, you know, 128 page book.
That could be a big ask.
But no, if I said
Yeah.
if we were doing this as a, you know, as a proper book, so to speak.
You'd have a lot of pieces like that.
We'd have that would be an area we'd have to fluff out, you know.
Or even just if it was kind of a 5 or 8 or 10 page PDF. Just expand it out a bit of here's what you can do, here's some extra stereotypes, here's some tips on what you can throw in to make the game work.
Yeah.
Here's your homework.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So back to the setup phase. I felt that the mysteries really worked. I think that the idea of handing in a bunch of stuff, it probably would have been better with more players. Molly, what are your thoughts on this?
I liked having the little chat about the mysteries and then being able to pick and choose. Like I did genuinely like that.
I really enjoyed trying to guess them as well.
Yeah.
I liked it, but I could see how it could frustrate people, like not knowing 100%, you know. But then I suppose that's a symptom of the
type of game. It's a game about with hidden information.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think that would be the issue. You'd get those people that would be like, "But I want to know."
Well, then they can take actions to find out.
Yeah, true. I think my problem is that I've generally been dealing with players who are kind of, I won't say entitled, but that don't like the mystery aspect of games.
Okay.
I think that on the opposite side, from where I come from and the background I have in games, I think mysteries are fairly important in most role-playing games I've played. These are the more mainstream games, and I think most GMs of highly complex systems go for the big reveal or things like this. Usually,
yeah, there's a sort of a story games trend of get rid of the mystery entirely, which is get the players in, and I think we did a good job of getting us involved without, it's not just the GM's baby. It's like something that we had a part in, but we still don't know, and that made it really interesting for me in a way that a lot of the story game stuff that just puts it out there doesn't.
Yeah, it gives the players a little bit of investment because it might be their idea or it might be somebody else's, but they've kind of got something to dig into to work on, as opposed to like a complete blank slate mystery where you don't even really know what you're digging into.
Or something like Lovecraft-esque where you're building the mystery, which is a whole different type of fun.
I think this is actually a quite revolutionary mechanic in the sense that half of the games out there go for a game master does everything, and half of them go for complete round-robin world creation and setting up. And we created a way to balance this by inducing some uncertainty into the concept, which is actually quite nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my big annoyances, I suppose, with a lot of modern kind of collaborative world build type games, is that you end up with that moment where it's like you've just got people sat there like, what do I do again? What are we doing again? What do I do again? I can't think of this. Whereas chunking it up into those little bits and still allowing me to retain control felt really good,
Yeah, I thought it really worked. So yeah, I think the questions just were this, for me, the standout thing that was good, that was really good about this game. Do you think any of them need rewording?
I think its kind of mileage may vary.
Yeah.
All the way through,
Yeah.
Like this is very much a game which has been kind of created by us, so there's a lot of us in it, if you get what I mean.
True.
Definitely.
You could kind of change the focus of the game a bit by shuffling up the questions a bit.
That is true.
Like if you had something like, how much contact do they let you have with your fellow inmates? As a question, that obviously kind of makes it sound probably at least a bit more prison-like, and you're more constrained in who you can see and talk to, kind of.
I'm not sure if that's a mystery though, because it should be obvious.
Or yeah, you probably need to rephrase it, but you could kind of throw different questions in there.
Yeah.
Change what the focus of the game is.
I think actually, that might be the better one. Like if we were going to do a full book write-up of it, I would do like streams of information and say like, you know, this is a good idea for if you want to, you know, kind of more mysteries, but say generally you want to pick one from each block of mysteries.
One from section A, one from section.
Yeah.
I think for the purposes of the revised edition, I'd not like to go above 3 pages.
Yeah, no.
So
I
I
get
think
you.
a little bit about like customizing the game would be nice.
Yeah.
And probably a worked example to as that extra page. Okay. So mystery's good. Brainstorming generally probably needed a bit more guidance. Do you reckon the 5 or 6 things that people expected to see was good? I felt that was a little bit too much. Probably should, like 3 or 4 would have been enough.
I don't know.
I think the main thing here was, due to the nature of us playing the game. I mean, in the context of the podcast, we sort of try to be very amicable on what we want to play, and very we didn't resist much because we wanted to do this forward. But I think that players on the table might consider this in a totally different way.
That in mind, though, we also did Bagsy characters more than was written. And do you think that we just did that because of the podcast, or do you think that was just a thing that we ended up doing as well?
I think that's just our nature of, because we're all adults, you know, like we all play games and we all put up with idiots in games. So, you know, it's one of those things of, it's a case of us kind of knowing what's up, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that the stereotypical character per player and a couple of spares might want to be, and maybe a couple of spares in case people have very strong ideas.
True.
I think that might be a good way of rewording it. We only did 1 spare, and because it became quite quickly kind of obvious that we weren't going to use them. Yeah, the stand-up comedian died on their ass pretty quick. When the person that was interested in them, myself, kind of got sold on the punk. So
yeah, no. I mean, the other thing is well, let's be real here. Let's not pretend we're Critical Role. Like we did plan this in advance. You know,
not a huge amount.
Yeah, but we did discuss
a little bit,
that we're gonna be doing this. You know, so more so than your average group would sit.
That's true. Yeah.
And plot out a game. You know, so you know that is one element of it. That's why it kind of died on its arse a bit, is because we already knew what we were going to do, you know, but not to the degree of like, okay, you're going to walk over to the guy and you're going to do this and all that lot, you know.
Yeah, right. I'm just making a couple of notes.
It does help a bit as that it's a relatively kind of non-competitive game.
Oh yeah, thank God.
Yeah, because if you were kind of all competing to be the only escapee or something, it suddenly gets a lot more nastier. Actually, I want to play that guy. I like him the best. Which, to be fair, most RPGs I play, at least, the most I'm aware of, tend to be at least broadly cooperative these days. But there are still occasional elements of PvP that happen, and
I'd like to do
that does tend
PvP
to change the entire tone of the game a lot.
Yeah, you always end or you just end that one guy who he PvPs.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't think it's implied in any of the games that when you play a tabletop game, there is PvP. I think it's just people who go for it.
I mean, the old Marvel one used to have sparring rules, which was quite interesting. So you could take a pair of characters and just have at it. Unfortunately, it was one of those ones where it needed a second edition because, well, it was horrendously unbalanced in certain places.
Is that the Marvel one where crowds stopped you moving and there was nothing you could do to stop them.
No, it's the one with the stones of effort.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know the one.
Yeah, the really good one.
Yeah, not the old 80s one, but
No, it's the one
my-
after that, but the one before the Cortex version.
Yeah, the only role-playing game, by the way, fun fact, that my evangelical Christian mother, born-again Baptist Christian evangelical mother, ever bought me was the Marvel, Shift Z, Shift X,
Yeah.
that system
System.
was the
Okay.
only one. So yeah, that was my only parental approved role-playing game, and it was garbage.
Yeah, I got the
Not Dragon Raid, the Christian RPG.
God, if I'd have known that had existed, oh,
What, you
You have
wanted
skills
it,
for,
or
like-
you wanted to run away from it?
I'd want it. Come on, how long a discussion did we have about Fatal when we were?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this game. Maybe that's a chat for another time.
Yes. Okay. let's not completely derail.
I think we've got a little bit off topic now.
Yes, but yeah. So, So, how did you guys feel? I'll be honest. For me, sorry, a lot of the actual resolving what happened to you guys, as you might have been able to tell, was kind of flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
I think that's very much the type of game it is, because depending on what the players do, they're fairly free to make up crazy plans or do odd, unexpected stuff.
Yeah,
You
because
can't just assume they're...
my concern is that if you were to sit a new GM down to do this, they would just be like, "What is this? I am not good at computer. Everything is on fire."
I think what we didn't do was the prelude section where it says set out the challenges. And I think formalizing that more might be a good thing.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. We're going to leave the bit about how it was playing on a podcast, things like that, till a bit later, if that's all right with you guys. But we can have a bit more of a discuss about how we approached it, playing a game on a podcast, how we approached playing a game that we'd written as well.
I'd still want to comment on the nature of the game, even on the table setting, that it had a strong feeling of tabletop game in general, not a tabletop RPG, but just a board game.
Yeah.
In the sense that it had this sort of round phase where there's a specific way to handle time shifts, and it felt kind of awkward to me. Not definitely a bad choice, but not what I would expect from a role-playing game.
Yeah, that sort of very structured game loop.
Yeah, that's why I was saying it's a fantastic one for running play by post, because you have that constructed loop, which unfortunately, for me, there was times when I was trying to think how we could break out of the loop, but the game functioned much better within it. So it was like, I don't really want to pretend to be a rock star and break the loop for no good reason.
Yeah. So if we go through it sort of in order, we've got the routine bit with the setup and people introducing complications. I enjoyed that. I thought it was a good intro to the characters and each other.
I like the kind of forcing people to do things at each other,
Yeah. I did enjoy that. I think that with a group that didn't know each other very well, that would be a nice thing.
Yeah, actually, that would work quite well for a convention, wouldn't it? You could sit people down and go, right, come on, let's
make a bit of trouble for them, or have the GM mediate it a little bit more. Some advice, in that vein would be useful.
Yeah, I mean, one useful thing about it, if you were just playing with complete randomers, is that you've got that nice way of, I'll be honest with you, the being able to set up people's days would be an awesome filter for, when you have that lovely moment where you're like, hey, let's throw in a minor problem that that someone might have to face, and then you've always got that one guy that's like, she gets raped. Like, okay, gonna have to watch you during this game.
Yeah, I suppose it does kind of get that out of the way. I mean, honestly, I'd have rather have got that bit sorted out before the game.
But sometimes
you just don't have time.
But the structuring probably also helps as a con game because you're not suddenly going, this happens, and there's absolutely no warning. You kind of have a little bit of structure and time to think about, okay, I need to do 3 things, so I'm going to do this, do that, do the other. Just because it helps structure a bit more than...
Yeah, well, I was trying, I'll be honest, because we were on the podcast and we were on, for time, and we're going to have to do this for an audience. I was trying to push you guys into, come up with something in your slot, like do your thing.
I think that worked well for me. That kind of fit quite well with how I like to approach character setup, their routine, things like that. I like coming up with what's likely to be in my enclosure, and
I mean, I would possibly, if I was running this for my home group, I would, and I could be really indulgent, I might run like a whole session for each player and go through like a week of their but go through like a full week or a full time period of their routine, so that when it's Fit the Polip day, that Fit the Polip day is meant to be on a Wednesday.
No, that's pushing it more towards the very heist genre.
But then again,
style of play, and
I love heist games.
Cool.
Like I relentlessly adore heist games, so I'm going to be pushing it that way, just unconsciously.
I think the biggest problem of this format, it was the fact that it pushes players to separate and do stuff in different times instead of participating in the same scene. And I really enjoyed the scenes I did with other players. So I think we would have to find a way to encourage cooperation more.
True. I think we are generally quite risk averse as players, though. So that probably coloured it in that, it's like, well, I don't want to build up too much heat.
The heat was a bit of an issue. But unfortunately, I kind of realised later that I was really underplaying it. And I also realised that as soon as we had Flip the Polip day, and I'd sort of had that intro and I was learning quite a bit about my character felt like he was risk averse.
That makes sense.
And unfortunately, I was like, oh, it feels bad to just throw myself at this. I'm gonna so I didn't do it as much as I might have done.
I don't know. I felt I took a lot of risks, and I regretted it when I thought that it ruined Purple's game on that time.
You were more worrying about that.
I know that that we solved this, but again, I think this sort of segregation didn't help with actually doing stuff together and figuring out how the player characters, how they think about each other.
I think having some enforced scenes together might really work.
That actually, I had a thought along that line, but I just couldn't figure out a way of doing it without it being kind of, me just kind of going, right, you're all in the same room now. I just couldn't quite.
I think
I couldn't do the
setting
Rubik's
it up
Cube
the night before people sort out their actions. You pick a slot and you pair 2 players up.
Should this be a rule, or should this be a strong suggestion to the game master?
I think it should be an optional rule or suggested. maybe it's an optional rule to take it out. Then it's like an opt-out rather than an opt-in.
Yeah, so if you're comfortable doing lots of solo scenes, you can, but by default you will have basically touch base at least every so often.
Let them touch base. Like when we didn't get to be honest, that was really, really cool. I mean, it frustrated my character ridiculously, but it was really cool. And I think that like having an option to surprise them and not letting one of them be there was, I don't know, that should be an opt-in though, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's like the group opt-in at the start, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah. For the opt-in, opt-out, I am aiming for the pit of success. If people know that term.
Pit of success.
Yeah, the pit of success is like a computer, programming design sort of philosophy. Whereas if people just do the dumbest, stupidest, most default thing, that should be the thing most likely to succeed. Whereas taking the options should be for people that know what they're doing. So for me, I think that the forced cooperation kind of is, especially for a game that's about people who are often split up, and is a quite cool thing. So you should have the option to opt out if you don't think it's going to work. Whereas like the missing a meetup, I think some groups are going to hate that. So I think that it'd be best to make that an opt-in rule.
I think that board games do this very well. They say, if this is your first time playing, do this. And then you can choose if you want to keep it in your game or not.
Are we going to end up with something like the imps from Burning Wheel for this 3-page game?
I think the problem is like, I think we have to flip this round now while we're thinking about it, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking of it kind of like I'm thinking of this as if I was going to publish it, you know?
Yeah.
So, but we actually have to think of it as like we've got one more page and some rules tidying, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we could do quite a lot of tidying.
Yeah.
And we could do quite a lot of tweaks and things. Not a huge amount of writing to rewrite the thing from scratch, to be honest. I mean, the draft, I did most of it while listening through the podcast to do the edit, and then wrote the rest of it up in a couple of hours. So it's not particularly onerous thing. But then again, I've written a lot of 1-pagers.
Yeah.
So it's that's just using my experience there, really. Okay. The talents. I'm not sure how well they worked. The whole I have a talent for, they don't expect me to, the crowd love it when I can't stand having to.
Yeah, it was quite hard to kind of, I'll be blunt, force you to use the to use it, you know?
I think we did but we chose to, but that was more because of the sort of players we are. Yeah.
I think this game actually, you've nailed that quite well. Actually, I think a lot of this game boils down to the players we are. Like this is a game we have made for ourselves. You know,
I'm not sure how well that would work in the wild. I'm not trying to sell us as being absolutely brilliant, because I'm not the best player.
We're a bunch of potatoes. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. Like I think I can GM pretty good, but I ain't a very good player.
Yeah.
Don't get any practice.
I did like the way they made you kind of think about your character and how they interact with the world and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of actual applicability and functionality, they didn't seem to be the most transparent and easy to use system.
I think this is due to the way we structure the time. So everything, every single action was resolved with a single skill thing. I think that if we had more skill challenges during the game, it would help be confident on what talents you're good with or what you're absolutely rubbish at or things like that.
See, I had, when I was going through it, I know I definitely was thinking that it would be multiple roles for each action, like a handful of roles. But then I realized that I didn't actually put that down anywhere that I can see.
I see. For me, I'll be honest with you. For me, I hate rolling dice. Like, I've had so many like 3rd edition games where you spend an entire night doing one round of combat. I will, short of physically harming one of my players, do anything I can to avoid dice rolls.
I
So,
think
like,
that
Okay.
that did, however, mean that we weren't generating noise.
Yeah, which was the issue there. I realised that you guys never really, you never really risked with noise because you didn't do much. You know, it was, I understand where the flaw was, and it was partly my biases within games. You know.
Yeah, I think it was like just a miss. I think what we've done is we've written a system to do one thing and explained it in a different way. We've basically gone roll to do the thing and not actually explained that the other half of the system is balanced against this requires 4 or 5 rolls.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I was thinking of doing was, but I didn't because we were trying to stick to as written, was just making certain things auto-generate you heat.
That or the GM can just go, you've attracted the attention of the guard, you gain some heat.
Yeah,
because I say so.
Exactly, and I was thinking of even doing it that you would kind of know how much heat you've got, but you wouldn't. Obviously,
you wouldn't necessarily have
like
a number.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, so your health track is effectively, the general level, but not the specific number.
Yeah.
But the problem is that if you did do that, like there are a lot of players who would rebel against that because that's just revenge GMing risk at its highest, you know.
Well, I think the way we wrote this helped the GM be more reactive to the players than the players being reactive to the GM. I think this played a big role, and I don't know if this is due to how we wrote the system or due to the fact that we do this in front of a mic.
I think it was definitely something I was aiming for, to give the players quite a lot of agency. I mean, in terms of what their characters did, but very little in terms of what they have access to.
Well, this causes, if you've played any role-playing games and you're not, a psychopath like I am, you do try to essentially be safe, and you just avoid gathering noise. Whereas if the game master had more agency, they could create some sort of some sort of situation where you cannot avoid doing one or the other.
Yeah. So it becomes a choice of how you get noise, kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna get it in some way or another. Do you want to have achieved X or Y in getting?
Yeah.
So this was a conscious choice for you, Purple. Like this was as intended.
Yeah. I was like, for me, when I was like writing up the game, when I was like going over the podcast, it seemed to me like that's what we were aiming for. We were aiming to have the GM be very like they give the players a sandbox, but it's a tiny sandbox.
That's pretty accurate to how I was viewing it. I mean, admittedly, it was like trying to pick up a wet cat at times. It was tricky at times to make things interesting enough for you. If you get what I mean.
So did this work in the long run? Like, how do you find this?
It was a fun enough game. It was but it was a bit like there was moments that were really good, but there was some other moments that were kind of. And I think what we need to do is whichever changes we make are to reduce the part.
Yeah.
That's the big part for me, is that, I don't like the idea of there being that enforced railroading on either side of it, or where, like, as the GM, I have to send you down a certain route. And likewise, as the players, you have to go down a certain route, other than obviously fulfilling the plot. And side note, anyone who says that a GM who requests for you to actually fulfill the plot is railroading you is an idiot.
Mm-hmm. I mean, not so much the plot, the premise of the game.
Yeah.
No, if the plot is there's an evil lich and you're big damn heroes and you're supposed to kill him, like, why are you playing if you don't want to do that? It's like picking up Doom and going, I want to draw pretty pictures.
I mean, there are people that do that.
Yes, and they're idiots. And if you disagree with me, feel free to tweet or message in, and I'll call you an idiot all over again.
Okay, so the skills. I did like I have a talent for X, and I think that they don't expect me to didn't really land too well.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I would just have I have a talent for I suck at, like, just that binary thing. And then maybe change they don't expect me to be good at, and they don't, and the crowd loves it when, as like a kind of like a bit of a gotcha. Like, you can go, actually, I need this, so aha.
Yeah, I think we should limit the crowd love it when, so it's a one-off.
Yeah.
Once overall, because it was somewhere bearing the rules. Where is it?
You can just kind of suddenly pitch in and go, actually, bang, done my special thing.
Yeah, I think that those two should be big gotchas. They don't expect me to, and the crowd love it when I should probably be just like a one-off auto success.
Yeah, that you can just suddenly pitch in and go, that's my thing.
So yeah, those two become one-offs. So you don't have to try balance them all the time. You use them one time, not once a day, not
just once
per game, once per escape attempt, effectively.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you guys kind of happy with that?
Yeah, I could go either way.
Makes sense to me.
Right, onto the prelude. So the prelude bit, we didn't do a lot of that, did we? I think partly we were just trying to get through to the meat of the game.
Yeah.
I think what had happened is we were looking for routes while we were doing our intros. I know I asked quite a few sort of leading questions. What about you guys? Did you feel like there was anything that you knew we'd have to overcome that setup phase worked?
Well, it's kind of a bit of an interesting question, because it's kind of a puzzle game in that you're trying to solve the puzzle and get out, but there's no actual puzzle. It's basically what the GM thinks is there was appropriate. So, like, if you had a GM that had been having a really bad day and just wanted to make you fully logic through and explain what you're going to do, it would be a very different game than someone that wants to go through the steps and tell a cool story of how the people got out, something like that.
Yeah.
Which does mean that, like, if similar to any kind of type of game where the people involved are kind of making up the world as they go or a bit in advance, it's very dependent on kind of people having roughly the same idea and being on the same page.
Yeah.
One person's going like full on dystopian, people die horribly at no sudden notice, and the other person is basically doing it as a sci-fi themed escape from Colditz type thing. Big damn heroes escaping. You're going to end up with some weird tonal differences.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what we're doing in the routine, though, is trying to smooth some of that out.
Yeah.
Molly?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the thing is like, I think Chris hit the nail on the head perfectly there, which is there's that one of the big things that we need to put in for the new version is it is very, very important to make sure that you get the tone right, because as he put, like, grim dystopian kind of, fortress type thing is very, very different to running, plucky chaps escaping, don't you know, kind of Colditz one. And I think, particularly as the GM, I should have really hammered into you guys what I was thinking flavor was.
Yeah. So I think what we should do is have a bit before the routine where we sort of do some of that.
Yeah, so like during the mysteries and the setup phase, after you've done the mysteries, you then go, okay, here is like, welcome to the zoo. It's called Blair, or whatever.
You call it, yeah.
And you create that initial thrust and say like, okay, guys, like this is bad shit. Like you go and get murdered if people disappear all the time, rather than that like, well, you don't really know.
Yeah.
Would you like this? Sorry.
So what you're going to do is describe the effects of the mysteries, not what the answers are, but the effect.
Yeah, the effects of the mysteries.
Cool. I really like that. And it also means that we can do that prelude without overloading it with too much stuff. Because we were doing sort of character chat, we were doing what are we planning? What's our opportunity?
Yeah.
When what we should have been doing was just what is our opportunity? What are our obstacles? I think we tried to pack too much of the tone and stuff into that.
Yeah. And also being able to do the whole and also that would also make it that it's much more of the like, once again I'm going back to heist movies, but the like, so here's the plan, dum dum,
yeah,
Steve, you need to get past the locks.
Ooh.
So and that kind of.
I've just had a thought. Should we suggest framing it as it's the result, you come together to share the results of your like low level recon?
Yeah, actually, that could work. Like, or you've come together because you've all noticed that there is a way to escape.
Okay.
So you've come together. This is not the first meeting. This is the one after the whole. Guys, we need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a look around, see if anything comes to mind. That sort of thing. But it's the meeting after that one. I think that's a good idea. I think that would actually frame it better. And so people can say what they've been focusing on, and the GM, that way the GM's not completely out on their own trying to come up with these things.
Yeah.
So you can go, so I've been looking into tunnels, and then the GM can set up some tunnel related stuff using what they prepped. They can just maneuver it into the tunnel digging space. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's sort of like a in character exposition, really.
Yeah.
Or semi in character.
Yeah, basically.
Cool. Also, the brilliant thing is you swore, so now I don't have to beat the bit earlier when I did it. Yes. Okay, we're gonna take a short break now, and then we'll get back to chatting about the actual game loop itself, a little bit more about noise. And join us for part 2.